Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. We are here in TSQP, otherwise known as Tompkins Square Park. And right over my shoulder, right here where my finger is pointing, that is the famous Hare Krishna tree.
Not and this one here, no, where I'm pointing.
Yeah, but where I'm pointing. There, right there. This one right here. Yay! But we're here to read Srimad Bhagavatam, the purports from Srila Prabhupada, who came and chanted under this tree and started a worldwide movement of Krishna consciousness.
Alright, it's Canto 4, Chapter 22, Text 24.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Text 24. A candidate for spiritual advancement must be non-violent, must follow in the footsteps of great acharyas, must always remember the nectar of the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, must follow the regulative principles without material desire, and while following the regulative principles should not blaspheme others. A devotee should lead a very simple life and not be disturbed by the duality of opposing elements. You should learn to tolerate them. Purport. The devotees are actually saintly persons or sadhus. The first qualification of a sadhu or devotee is ahimsa or non-violence. Persons interested in the path of devotional service or in going back home, back to Godhead, must first practice ahimsa or non-violence. A sadhu is described as titiksava karunika, Bhagavatam 3.25.21. A devotee should be tolerant and should be very much compassionate toward others. For example, if he suffers personal injury, he should tolerate it. But if someone else suffers injury, the devotee need not tolerate it. The whole world is full of violence, and a devotee's first business is to stop this violence, including the unnecessary slaughter of animals. A devotee is a friend not only of human society, but of all living entities, for he sees all living entities as sons of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He does not claim himself to be the only Son of God and allow all others to be killed, thinking that they have no soul. This kind of philosophy is never advocated by a pure devotee of the Lord. Surida sarva dehinam. A true devotee is a friend of all living entities. Krishna claims in Bhagavad Gita to be the father of all species of living entities. Consequently, the devotee of Krishna is always a friend of all. This is called ahimsa. Such non-violence can be practiced only when we follow in the footsteps of great acharyas. Therefore, according to our Vaishnava philosophy, we have to follow the great acharyas of the four sampradayas or disciplic successions. Yeah, it's interesting because using this word ahimsa, which is fashionable these days. I'm a ahimsa vegan. I only have ahimsa dairy. You know why? Because I don't want violence to the animals. You know, I don't accept slaughterhouses. I'm specifically about devotees, but it's interesting because Prabhupada's taking it a step further in terms of how our behavior is. So we may be only eating ahimsa paneer sabji, but we may be hurting devotees through speech or through behavior. Ahimsa isn't just what I'm eating, you know, like a vegan pizza, but it's actually Prabhupada saying that we should be tolerant. And he's not saying we should accept abuse in any way, so we have to make sure that's clear. Not like, it's my fault. No, I should be tolerant. We need to use our intelligence, but I'm getting that one's behavior. And just like Krishna, you know, he's there on the altar every day, all day, and anyone can come and see him. in the same way. Somehow we have to be, I feel it's saying, approachable. You know? We should become like lighthouses. People should be able to take shelter of us and not feel, oh my God, there's danger, there's a shipwreck, don't go there, they're right mess, or whatever. But we should give shelter to the shipwrecks, as it were.
Shipwrecked. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, yes, I just think it's interesting. It's not just, no, because just it's a buzzword, or it was anyway, when we were in England anyway. Ahimsa, this, that, the other, which is all good, don't get me wrong, but I'm not.
All good, mate, but yeah.
But I just find it interesting that, for me anyway, that's what I got out of it.
No, it's a strong point. It's not just ahimsa that I don't eat animals, it's ahimsa that...
Yeah.
What Prabhupada says here is, consequently, the devotee of Krishna is always a friend to all. He's always a friend to all. And then Prabhupada says, this is called ahimsa. So being a friend to all, that's ahimsa. And not just a friend, someone who doesn't kill cows, or doesn't, whatever it is. I thought it was interesting that Prabhupada says, the whole world is full of violence, and a devotee's first business is to stop this violence. The whole world is full of violence, and a devotee's first business is to stop the violence. And he says, including the unnecessary slaughter of animals. So that's just one aspect of the violence that Prabhupada is. And again, he says a devotee is the friend not only of human society, but of all living entities. Because he sees everyone as part and parcel of Krishna. So like that. A very powerful point. I mean, for Prabhupada to say that's our first business is interesting. Excuse me. So, next paragraph. Trying to advance in spiritual life outside the disciplic succession is simply ludicrous. It is said, therefore, acharyavan purusho veda. One who follows the disciplic succession of acharyas knows things as they are. Chandogya Upanishad 6.14.2. Tad vigyanartam sagurum eva bigachit. In order to understand the transcendental science, one must approach the bona fide spiritual master. Mundaka Upanishad 1.2.12. The word smritya is very important in spiritual life. Smritya means remembering Krishna always. Life should be modeled in such a way that one cannot remain alone without thinking of Krishna. We should live in Krishna so that while eating, sleeping, walking, and working, we remain only in Krishna. Our Krishna Consciousness Society recommends that we arrange our living so that we can remember Krishna. In our ISKCON Society, the devotees, while engaging in making spiritual sky incense, Prabhupada making a reference there in his book, are also hearing about the glories of Krishna or his devotees. The Shastra recommends Smartavya Satatam Vishnu. Lord Vishnu should be remembered always, constantly. Vishmartavya Najatu Chit. Vishnu should never be forgotten. That is the spiritual way of life, smritya. This remembrance of the Lord can be continued if we hear about him constantly. It is therefore recommended in this verse, Mukunda Charitagriya Siduna. Yes, Siduna. Sidhu means nectar. To hear about Krishna from Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita or similar authentic literature is to live in Krishna consciousness. Such concentration in Krishna consciousness can be achieved by persons who are strictly following the rules and regulative principles. We have recommended in our Krishna consciousness movement that a devotee chant 16 rounds on beads daily. Follow the regulative principles. That will help the devotee be fixed in his spiritual advancement in life. So we were just hearing from one devotee the other day. He mentioned that how he was preaching to someone, and And he told them that, it's like, bhakti isn't necessarily, all these different rules and regulations, which is absolutely correct. Bhakti isn't that. Those are the servants of bhakti. They're not bhakti. But at the same time, we see here that Prabhupada often stresses that following the rules and regulations, they will help one to be fixed in his spiritual advancement in life. And specifically, he's talking about chanting 16 rounds, following the 4 regulative principles, hearing, chanting, like that. But basically, we're meant to become Krishna conscious, and that means absorbing ourselves fully.
Another feature of the it is also stated in this verse that one can advance by controlling the senses, yama. By controlling the senses, one can become a Swami or Goswami. One who is therefore enjoying this super title, Swami or Goswami, must be very strict in controlling his senses. Indeed, he must be master of his senses. This is possible when one does not desire any material sense gratification. If by chance the senses want to work independently, he must control them. If we simply practice avoiding material sense gratification, controlling the senses is automatically achieved.
Anything?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, when you can't dip your foot too much in the material energy and then wonder why you're not getting a taste in the spiritual. Like, you have to live and you have to get on with life. And it's no one saying you just have like a dry, boring life. But yeah, it's interesting to the degree that, someone's doing Netflix binges or pizza shop crawl or whatever, as opposed to the Pizza Hut, because we don't go pub, for example. It's interesting, and then you're not going to be so inspired to then, I'm just going to sit down now and read the Bhagavatam, because you'll fall asleep. Or you think, well, it's only natural, I might as well just sit here and do something else. We'll have a nap. Yeah, it's interesting to say that you can control the senses automatically just by avoiding material sense gratification, so you don't need to do anything separate from that. You could take a look at your life, make a list of what you do in a day or a week, and then just see what you could reduce slowly and whatever, as opposed to abruptly stopping, and how that gives time for other things or just clears up another path,
Yeah, of course we can be doing something that one might think, oh, this is material, like looking after your kids, looking after your wife or your husband, or working a job to support them, and keeping, if you have deities, being able to, purchase clothes for the deities, offer bhoga to the deities, things like that. But you got a job, you got a family, you got a car. So all that might be perceived as sense gratification or materialistic, but it's really about how you perceive it and how you approach it and why you're doing it. So another important point mentioned in this connection is anandaya. We should not criticize others' methods of religion. There are different types of religious systems operating under different qualities of material nature. Those operating in the modes of ignorance and passion cannot be as perfect as that system in the mode of goodness. In the Gita, everything has been divided into 3 qualitative divisions. Therefore, religious systems are similarly categorized. When people are mostly under the modes of passion and ignorance, their system of religion will be of the same quality. A devotee, instead of criticizing such systems, will encourage the followers to stick to their principles, so that gradually they can come to the platform of religion and goodness. Simply by criticizing them, a devotee's mind will be agitated. Thus, the devotee should tolerate and learn to stop agitation. Very powerful and interesting that Srila Prabhupada here is honing in on other religions, being respectful to other religions, not being condemning. How different religions exist because of the influence of the modes of material nature. But still, it's not that just because I'm in a mode of goodness religion that I condemn and criticize those in a mode of ignorance religion. Very powerful. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Another feature of the devotee is nirihaya, simple living. Niriha means gentle, meek, or simple. A devotee should not live very gorgeously and imitate a materialistic person. Plain living and high thinking are recommended for a devotee. He should accept only so much as he needs to keep the material body fit for the execution of devotional service. He should not eat or sleep more than is required. Simply eating for living and not living for eating, and sleeping only 6 to 7 hours a day are principles to be followed by devotees. As long as the body is there, it is subjected to the influence of climatic changes, disease and natural disturbances. The threefold miseries of material existence. We cannot avoid them. Sometimes we receive letters from neophyte devotees questioning why they have fallen sick, although pursuing Krishna consciousness. They should learn from this verse that they have to become tolerant. This is the world of duality. One should not think that because he has fallen sick, he has fallen from Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness can continue without impediment from any material opposition. Lord Shri Krishna therefore advises in Bhagavad Gita chapter 2 text 14, Tamsta Tikshasva Bharat, my dear Arjuna, please try to tolerate all these disturbances. Be fixed in your Krishna conscious activities. Yeah, it's so true. When we become unwell or someone we love becomes unwell, it depends how this is a point that was brought up in the Bhagavatam class today. It depends how well you flexed that spiritual muscle to be able to deal with something like that. Brahmatirtha Prabhu was saying this in the class. I have to go to the spiritual gym and really work those spiritual muscles like now, because he said you're going to get challenges and you're going to get obstacles, but the difference is when that strain, as it were, comes. If I'm strong, like if you use the literal example of doing bodybuilding and that, then I'm going to be able to hold that, and I won't be like shaking or drop it, as it were. So in the same way, that if we're flexing that spiritual muscle now, when we're able to, then when the inevitable challenges, and Prabhupada, saying this is a world of dualities, of course you're going to get these threefold miseries when they come. Yeah, we don't get rocked, and more important is that we don't lose faith, and we can inspire others not to lose faith.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's really important, because it's the first thing. I know growing up in a certain environment, it was like that, very judgy. Why did that happen? Why we got this? Why we have to go through this? Yeah, and it's rather than empowering speech and, okay, that's happening. You can do it. We're going to get through this. It's not the end of the world. You're not a failure because you got ill or because this happened or you failed this or whatever. It's really important. In one sense, just accepting. Like now, it isn't like how it is in England, what we're used to, the weather here now. It's getting cold, but it's still just the walk.
Still sitting outside with short sleeves shirt.
Yeah, for me it was horrible. It was so sunny on my head. I didn't like it, but But it's like, as it turns, you put your jacket on, you put your hat on, you put your scarf. Someone would think I'm a crazy person if I start to shout at the sky and say, why is it so cold? And why is it snowing? Who are you talking? It's the seasons, and we accept it. Yeah, it's quite empowering in that way to accept that. Yeah, you do have a material body, and those around you have them, and they are decaying, and they are getting old, and sadly they are going to expire. There's an expiry date on these bodies, and they don't all live to old age. It's another thing you have to accept. They're not all going to live to a ripe old age, and it's just basically constantly flexing that spiritual muscle so we're ready for that final test, I guess.
Yeah, which we don't know when it will come, so we better start flexing. Okay, thank you all very much for joining us here underneath the Hare Krishna tree in Tompkins Square Park, New York, New York. And it's our great pleasure to read Bhagavatam and share it with others, so thank you. Please remember to like,
comment,
subscribe,
share.